the Church of Scientology so afraid of?
This is SPTV.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, nice to see everyone again. It's just one of those things where you're just, when you have the need, you just got to go, got to take off.
Yes. Well, thank everyone for your patience. We got caught up on speaking to some of our friends that have reached out that were with us at the hotels. So we start with that piece of really, really good news. We're going to be bringing you all new interviews coming up with more kids that were literally put in unthinkable post to be doing as kids. So we're going to really start getting into the weeds of those subjects, like how the kids were put to do unthinkable tasks and unthinkable posts, and how that relates back to Danny Masterson and Ashton today, which is the title of our thumbnail. Two piece in a literal pod is really get into analyzing the weeds of what was being done with Danny Masterson and how that could have influenced what was going on with him and Ashton. Because a lot of people have been asking in the comments, well, he wasn't a Scientologist, Ashton wasn't, so, he's a completely different entity. But we've been doing more talking to more sources that are, telling us what they saw that when they were closer to those parties. There was a lot of parties, you guys. I mean, how many parties were going on when you were around, Liz?
When I was around, it was guaranteed every Friday, every Saturday. To be completely honest, there were days that it was almost like it was every single day. So yeah, there were a lot of parties on a regular basis.
It was all about the barbecues, you guys. It was like, come to a barbecue, get invited to a barbecue, let's all hang out, let's all do, fun stuff. And the problem with those barbecues is that they were filled with, Scientology plants, which are these kids who, like Susan Watson's son, Luke Watson, that was literally tapped to be speaking and giving back his information to his mom. So when we talk about this grooming of like, come and tell us everything that happened, we were trained since we were kids. We were told to report everything with time, place, form, and event immediately when we saw it. So the snitching culture could have not been any more real. This is not just like hyperbole. This is not just like sometimes things are written. Sometimes everybody writes reports.
Yeah, if you did, well, the thing is people also were under the impression if you don't write a report, and let's say that, let's say for example that you didn't write a report, but someone writes a report that you're there and you didn't write the report, you were absolutely unequivocally stuck in ethics until you write up your lower conditions. So yeah.
So, the problem with these parties is that, when shit would go awry, when flaps happened, I mean, that was the code word, you guys. That was the euphemism used, internal. And it looks like this. Literally, this is what it's called. Oh, a flap just took place. What is the flap? Well, the flap is that, there was a party and there was underage girls found in the party, and then the girls were drinking, and then the cops did get called, but then, they hid the girls and then nobody saw them. But, those girls are also Scientologists, and they were how old? Oh, yes, one was 14, the other one was 18, the other one was 17, the other one was 16. I mean, these little Scientology girls that have been told that they were adults in small bodies their whole life, you guys, acted pretty adult, to be honest. We all acted as adults. As 14, 15, 16, you really couldn't see it. And you know what? I'm actually thinking of pulling up a video that we can all review for ourselves real quick to really make our point. And that video is Grant Cardone's literal daughter. Grant Cardone's literal daughter, the professional stage speaker that she was paraded to be on literally YouTube. It's on YouTube. I've seen that video. Somebody sent it to me the other day again, because it really is, another one of these receipts that are being ignored, trivialized, and literally shredded by people, including but not limited to the Tampa Bay Times, who literally is still very confused, as if maybe children are not being abused that much, and maybe it's not even a big deal. And what in the literal hell are we suppressed about is kind of like the flow right now that we get from these people. You guys, it's like, what are you guys so pressed about? Like, we really have a First Amendment right that we really have to check and we really have to figure out. But you know what? Start doing some heavy lifting and start figuring out stuff faster, given that there are kids stuck in those hotels as we MF speak. It's not like they were let go of any other time. Their parents are very comfortable with what's being done to their kids. And you know what? There's another Mormon mom that was very comfortable doing all manner of locking up kids, forcing them to sleep in beanbags for 8 months, and all manner of other very similar way that our parents had raised us in punishment. And I mean, Liz, like this mom was literally saying you cannot eat because you haven't done your chores.
Correct. Tied them up. So the one that escaped had red marks of where his ties used to be.
Yeah.
So yeah,
they were withholding
mom of the year.
And they were withholding food from you, and they were withholding food from other people. You're only on rice and beans. You only have 15 minutes to eat. You cannot be late, and it was all just ridiculous. Dehumanizing, ridiculous for no purpose. They were all acting so pressed, like there's some big urgency to do anything. And the only urgency that it was so that they would keep us in like a state of literally nervous, like this. We were all the time in terror of being screamed and of being yelled, of getting in trouble over like ridiculous things that had nothing to do with keeping us safe. And, the reason this all goes back to Danny and Ashton, the celebrities, the big celebrities that they were, is that, Ashton was all over those celebrity centers, you guys. Like there's photos of them all together. So let's not pretend that, he has not a shred of a clue what goes on in those centers, because he's also really good friends with, Laura Prepon, who literally was really, really, really in those centers. I mean, you even met her too, right, Liz?
Yeah. And so it's one of those things where I'm telling you, that Rose Garden has seen so many famous butts. It's disgusting. But they would kind of hang out in a little pack, because they would put the tables close together so that they can sit there and look so important. But yeah, the whole group. Well, I never saw Topher. I'll be honest. Like, I always wondered once I got out why we never saw him. And then, oh yeah, why? Because he was avoiding the Scientology cult. Okay. Topher, you're amazing. Good job.
Yeah. The adultization of kids, and the fact that every single one of Danny's siblings, Alana, Chris, and Jordan, they know that kids are adulticized. So everything we're saying here, it's not like they don't have a shred of a clue what in the hell we're talking about. They've all agreed to call kids adults in small bodies. And again, how Ashton can run a Thor organization that is supposed to be all about advocating for the ending of the sexual abuse of kids, when kids in the hotels that they were frequenting, that they were all about for so many years, being puppeteered, because even they need advocacy, you guys. Like the fact that
But I think they
Ashton,
also got off on it. They liked it. I know Danny personally loved being treated like a god. Like, didn't have to move, let me bring you your coffee. He liked it.
well, then that's the whole thing, right? It's like this royal derangement syndrome. Like, people liked having slaves for themselves. It took a long time to be able to even own that was dehumanizing and disgusting. Never mind that people still in this year 2023 as we speak are very much finding out how to continue the slavery system alive, with Hollywood and Scientology sleeping together, because that's the other thing that needs to be understood about Hollywood. As much as Hollywood pretends that, oh, Scientology, we don't know them. But you know what? They do know them because they cast them in all their top things. They do know them because they give them all manner of awards, fake awards for shows that are done at the expense of the joke that gets played on us. When Elizabeth Moss is wanting really to talk about The Handmaid's Tale, that she has not a clue what it means for her to experience that. She goes and acts it out real well in 6 seasons.
Yep.
But you know what? She's never had to be told what you were told, Liz.
No.
Literally. I mean,
No,
I don't know.
she's treated with kid gloves, and you see it.
And
There's not one place that you can look that you don't see a child scrubbing a wall, scrubbing a floor. You see it.
Well, and you guys, there's the photographs that I've been posting on my community my community tab of YouTube with the photos, because I keep getting sent more and more photos. I don't even have time to post everything that I'm being sent right now, because the receipts are literally pouring the F in. And the emails of more and more people that know me. I was training all manner of people are reaching out and saying, oh my God, I know you from there. You were there training us, and especially second generation kids. We're not hearing a lot from the adults, to be honest. Like, there's crickets going on with the adults. I've yet to hear from a single adult. So I guess they're not really liking our message.
Or they're just scared of the repercussions. Because, again, there are always some form of
being scared of the
repercussion.
truth, right? That's being scared of the facts. And, they cannot keep ignoring what the facts are, because that's how they got to where they are in the first place. If y'all keep ignoring the facts, L. Ron Hubbard, indicted, convicted felon. Okay, so CC Carol Masterson, go really check yourself on a mirror and Google that fact for yourself on your phone, in front of a mirror. Was L. Ron Hubbard a convicted felon? Was he indicted? Did he run away? And then really see what the answer is, Carol. And then really ask yourself, what in the literal hell have I done to my kids?
Yeah, because one of them sits behind bars. Like, what have you done?
And then whatever undue influence you're literally pushing on Mila and Ashton, whatever alleged possible influence you could have on them, you really need to, again, go look in a mirror and see, what in the hell are you all really literally afraid of? Since none of y'all were implicated whatsoever in the criminal prosecution of your son, where apparently you couldn't have been more clueless and looped out of everything, because you know what? The records don't show that you were involved almost at all. I mean, apparently Carol just really had no clue about anything. Literally, like the mom-ager, the Scientology helicopter mom from hell. That's what L. Ron Hubbard turned y'all moms into. Scientology moms, y'all turned yourselves into robots, doing the same helicoptering, doing the same stupid ethics handlings. I really learned how to do ethics in a hotel. Stop the infantilized pitches. Stop it. Like literally, we don't have the patience to carry that MF water for y'all anymore. We couldn't be less spent with any patience to continue to capitulate to all of these stupid pitches that you all bought from an indicted, convicted felon.
Yeah.
And it's like, then everyone is screwed up. Everyone is in a lot of trouble. That's the first thing y'all need to really start understanding. Y'all ran rampant in those hotels without a shred of self-awareness. So yeah, you're gonna need some advocacy for yourselves. Scientology mothers, go get yourselves a good advocate. See who can defend the indefensible with y'all. Find a very good, smart attorney that can really, find a way to spin L. Ron Hubbard, spin the fact that y'all were keeping track of everything.
Yeah, because as the manager, whether it was their mom or not, just so you know, the manager gets updated regularly on when they're messing up, because that becomes a flap for Scientology. CC, the whole works. Everyone in the president's office goes nuts, and it's about controlling the situation. So if she says, I didn't know, that there's no chance if you are the manager, because the manager does get information, just like you're supposed to give information in regards to your son. You're supposed to report on your son as the manager and also as his mom. So I know you were getting tag team from all different angles. I know that you got told. Stop crying wolf. We know the truth. Like,
I mean, literally, Carol, Liz that worked at that president's office, okay? Just FYI. Liz that was tapped to be like, hey, you, Liz, you qualify to work with the VIPs. So come with us. You're going to sit here in this office and you're going to put out fires for us. I mean, Liz, you were literally putting out fires for the president's office at Celebrity Center.
I participated in them and then got to deal with, hearing quite a few of the stories on a regular basis. So it was more along the lines of, CC network style, hearing the flaps.
And the flaps, going back to that euphemism that we were talking about, guys, was, you could have had a Scientology actor so drunk in a restaurant that became utterly belligerent and yelling and screaming and creating a flap. Well, they needed their babysitters from CC, including but not limited to Liz here, that was said to, okay, now you, minor that you are, go speak to the people at the restaurant, go figure out how they will, broker some autograph signing and handle the PR flap, because that's what they called it. I mean, it could be a legal flap or it could be a PR flap. So
yeah, I did hear about quite a few, people rushing or like phone calls. Cause again, my boss was right behind me in CC network. And a lot of times you get to hear about what? Okay, this is going on. Okay. And then she'd repeat it again to everybody else. So anytime anything along those lines happened, it moved through the org like wildfire. And sorry, it's organization. Sorry, I keep forgetting to use that word. But yeah, it's a lot of times from just hearing everything, that so much was covered up. So much was sprinkled pink and called it, we're just going to throw some sprinkles at it and then it looks beautiful again, doesn't it? There was God, I can't remember the exact date, but there's quite a few things that I don't know if I'm ready to discuss, but at one point in time, I'll discuss it all. But I know for us, we had to pose perfectly for pictures of celebrities, and act a particular way when basically around them. Like, don't look them in the eye. Don't look them in the eye. They're
And this is what they called it, you guys. Oh, your ethics are handled. Oh, wow. This word cancels anything you did. And that's why we have another one of these Orange is the New Black Netflix Scientology series that that understands exactly that, you know, why is everyone crucifying Danny when he made a mistake? Well, if you call what Danny got convicted of a mistake, is because in your head you were told that that type of mistake that Danny got convicted for can get an ethics handling. Their ethics are handled. There's nothing else to do. This is handled. This is a done. This is a move on. This is a go to the next step. And if you don't want to go to the next step, then you have to go get more ethics. And what is the ethics is? It's more BS punishments, you know, all of these like insults to your intelligence, essays that they have you write. Are you in treason? Are you a treasonous person? Are you an enemy of the person? Are you a condition? Like, you're nothing but a condition in there. They're always telling you this condition and that condition and that's your condition. And it's like, they couldn't be more infantilized playing dumb word names. But yeah, that they claim in 2 weeks they can just know so much about ethics. You have no idea. Well, yeah, their little game is so dumb that in 2 weeks they learn it all.
Yep. They've passed the 2-week course. But here's my question on Danny. Because this, when you were saying like, you know, it's a mistake. So it kind of boils down to, you murdered someone. Let's say you were 17. You murdered someone when you were 17. You murdered them. You murdered another person. You're 18, 19, 20. At what point are you going to say it's no longer a mistake and you're just a murderer? So if we take Danny's situation, how many women actually have to come forward and say, hey, I was drugged. Hey, I was SA'd, before we call a spade a spade? Like, there's no, it was an accident. You don't rape, sorry, you don't SA people, sorry for that, multiple times, multiple people for many, many years, even after you marry Bijou, and then continue to do it, and it was a mistake. No, there's no mistakes. That is the Sea Org giving him zero culpability or zero responsibility in his own actions. It's a mistake. No.
Yeah, and it's called laundering felonies, guys. Like, actually, if you want to go clear a definition, go clear the definition of laundering, and then go clear the definition of Class A felonies, or GTS it real quick, or, you know, even Chat GPT it. There's so many easy ways today to find out the information. Like, literally, it's not hard. It's not difficult. It's not, there's a million opinions to be had. Child abuse is very simple. And we already put the definition of a child for all of you Scientologists that would want to go into this, a child, just an adult in a small body. Well, chat GPT that exact question, because we already put it on our community, for the community, the answer. When you ask chat GPT, is a child an adult in a small body? And guess what? In a nutshell, they're not.
No, they're still a child. They're absolutely a child. They need a mom. They need a dad. Their brains growing years are all during those time periods where they're learning how to love someone. They're learning how to learn. And they're forming attachments to things and people. But they're not adults. Not if you need those things. If you still need to form those opinions and those things, you're not an adult. Nope. Sorry. Go ahead.
Literally. I mean, here, children are not adults. How stupid can anyone be?
Mm-hmm.
And seriously, guys, I mean, It's not a joke. We're not saying this to be funny or to degrade them. It's like we couldn't be more disgusted. We couldn't be more mortified to have to be making these points on this literal eve of 2023, where one conviction has been made against these people at these hotels, of this hotel culture from hell. One conviction has been made, and yet every last shred of child that was treated as an adult in a small body, it's like, please, like, and we can't figure out how to see this as something more religious than what, America? I mean, how is this a 501c3 organization, IRS? We've yet to hear from the commissioner of the IRS, you guys. He is literally just
Echoes.
this. And it's like, it's unacceptable. Like, how can it be crickets? How? You know, it's like, I see it on the comments right now. They kept coming. I kept starring them because this one came out. Start a calling campaign to DHS CPS reporting on Scientology hotels and schools in your area. And yes, thank you for the suggestion. We talked in our other live about right now, we're hitting and shouting out the FDLE, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. You know, Child Protective Services, number one, they literally don't have a shred of a clue what they're doing half the time. They're so not able to organize themselves. I mean, look at what's going on. And especially when it comes to cult victims, they're pretty much like never do the right thing. This Mormon mom, they called Child Protective Services. They always came, nothing happened, la, la, la. The felonies just carried on. It took that desperate attempt of that child to be out in the streets, to be found with the marks on his hands, for everyone to now really be about the story and like really, really tell it. And, oh yeah, she's not getting bail and whatever. It's like, how many years were the reports being made with everyone playing dumb? Oh, it's really hard to prosecute. It's really hard to see if they're abusing somebody. It's like, we're not buying that BS anymore. So Child Protective Services, we couldn't even care less about them. They've done nothing for 5 decades in Florida. I'm sure that, you know, if they wanted to do something, they can reach out to us. We're not reaching out to them. So if they really want to help and they really want to learn something and they really want to do their job, they can start by hitting us up, not what we don't want to hit up them, literally. And
Yeah, because all we do is reach out, and it's crickets with everyone. Whether we're reaching out to our local FBI, well, we're sending letters to them, still nothing. So yeah, we're trying our best. We're giving you our whole lives and being as raw as possible.
We're going on to Instagram, guys. The Instagram is right there. So y'all can actually take it, you know, go ask them the question. Go ask, hey, what's up, FDLE? Why are you doing nothing to help any children inside those Scientology hotels? Because, you know, they cannot start posting certificates and awards and accolades for themselves for what a great job they do to really enforce laws in Florida, while they literally host a whole entire hotel chain that it literally has overtaken the entirety of the heart of Clearwater, running on the backs of children. And then don't make it a red issue, because let's bring you back to California here, literally Los Angeles, where it couldn't be more of a blue issue. It couldn't be more Hollywood's face smeared in feces. Literally in feces of Scientology. They smeared it all over themselves, and they love it, and they think it's great, and they think we're so amazing and elite, and aren't we so wonderful and really shaping culture? Literally shaping culture. That's what you're doing.
Yeah. I do see one question. It's by Cali Blue 2. How many more points do you get for recruiting a famous actor? It depends how famous, to be completely honest. If there's like a chartered path where it's like the next Tom Cruise, you could get into massive trouble if you tried to recruit them. If it's like a lower level that can like maybe They don't have a huge repertoire when it comes to acting or anything. Maybe they're a singer and they're a new singer and they're not very popular. Then they can be recruited, like, but there's reasons behind it. So
Yeah,
that way
but
the
let's just also
celebrities can
kind of
disseminate
clarify,
it.
because there's not really a point system. So let's just give it to them exactly what it is. It's called an FSM commission, and it's 10% or it's 15%. If they're paying for audits, then they're getting 10%. Now, granted, the audits are more expensive. So usually if they pay for audits, it could be like, oh yeah, you really need $50,000 to, buy 50 hours of our great audits that we're going to ask you. And you guys, again, go to the community lines, because that's where we're posting the actual receipts. There's a receipt there that I just posted, but I'm going to read it to you guys real quick because I think it's just really relevant. And it's this document here. Okay. It's called a goldenrod. Oh, you're not going to be able to see it because of the light. It's called a goldenrod, but you can see it on the community guidelines. It's called the second dynamic security check. Okay, so here it is, security check on the second dynamic, and this is very specifically relevant to Ashton and Danny, just so we get back to them, since this video is about them. Listen to questions that are being asked here. Have you ever made sacrifice? Have you ever made your spouse sacrifice something in return? Have you ever used sex as punishment? Have you ever hurt a spouse sexually? Have you ever failed to reach a climax and then blamed it for it? But why in the hell would they need to know, have you ever hurt your spouse sexually? Because last time we checked, that was a literal felony, borderline, you know what in the hell we exactly mean. What this man got convicted for. So have you ever hurt a spouse sexually? And actually spouse is in parentheses, because it's in parentheses because they mean to actually write the name of the person they really want to know what about. So in the case of Danny, he would have been asked, have you ever used sex as punishment? And have you ever made Christy sacrifice something in return? Have you ever hurt Christy sexually? Like, these questions weren't vague. These questions weren't like, as much as Scientology says, yeah, audits are our therapy, and aren't we so therapeutic asking these questions? Like,
Yeah,
that is
and
extremely
charging a
therapeutic.
ridiculous amount of money.
For $500 an hour, and that's where we go. It's like, what kind of 2-week course hotel gets you going from 0 to 500 that quick? Literally, what? Like, a deposition with a really good lawyer is what costs you that, but they went to school for nearly 10 years. By the time they get a license, never mind that, we still apparently give licenses to Frankensteins of law that are using the law and the power and corruption to come across as real highly intellectual when they couldn't be more running a whole joke on the entire nation and making a mockery of the law in America. If the law in America is stupid enough to recognize an indicted, convicted felon as a so-called American-bred god, Houston, y'all got some big MF problems.
Right. That's
The
where you suddenly
problems
want to just
are
go, shh, Houston, you got a problem.
literally, the problem is called stupidity AF. Literally, like, there's no way for anyone to make this stupidity make any sense for anyone. The pitch is not going to work. Oh yeah, but in America, everyone can do whatever. Wrong. That's not what the law says. Never mind that is what is going on as we see it right now. But that's not how it's supposed to be. So again, why would these people be asking questions like that is what in the hell we want to ask. Have you ever thought of another while having sex with your spouse? Have you ever been sexually unsatisfied after you've had sex with your spouse? Why? Have you ever wanted to act in a depraved way with your spouse? Have you ever wanted perverted sex with your spouse? Have you ever regretted being pregnant? Vomit. Literally nauseous.
Yeah.
Literally, like, and again, it's like when we were doing this as kids, you guys, when they were asking those questions, we thought, okay, what in the literal hell? I guess we really need those questions asked. I mean, there was no way to tell them no. These people never want to hear the word no. Liz, what would they do if you said no in a session? Like, no?
If you honestly, if you said no in a session, they would, well, depending who's auditing you, but they would threaten you first and then tell you that that's impossible to do. Or they would tell you, then you have to start this whole thing from question one. So you'd be basically either which way you're threatened.
And again, it's like, what kind of mother would put their underage kid, subject them to this disgusting level of depraved questions? Literally, like, what mother in Scientology can write us a quick pitch to tell us how we could not be more misunderstanding what in the hell we know exactly you're all about inside those hotels? You see, that's how the pitch is not going to work anymore. You're not going to get it past us. We know what it is. We know what in the hell you're doing. And you all need to stop acting like you can act like that and ask those questions and put kids to data mine this information for y'all. Like, it's not normal. It's not normal whatsoever. So why is it that in the year 2023, there's a very severe lack of outrage? Where in the literal hell is the outrage in America, where everyone's running around being very tolerant of religions that have been propped up by a convicted American indicted felon? CCIRS, CCFBI, CC Clearwater Police, CC Tampa Bay Times, that y'all cannot figure out what in the hell the story is. Well, go and Google who L. Ron Hubbard is for your damn selves. And then try to pitch us again why all of those hotels are nothing but a religious experience to kids, which included, but were not limited to, Daniel Masterson, who got asked these disgusting questions at 9, at 12, at 13, locked up against his will. Come get your session. You really need to tell us. You really need to tell us what you're really all about. Tell us those dark thoughts. Tell us. It doesn't matter. Your needle floated. You're good. You're handled. You're whatever. Like, he was paying 50 grand to get this done, to really get it all cleaned up, to get it all really sorted out. And, you know, Carol Masterson couldn't have been more prouder of him every time he completed one of those security questionnaires.
Or is that why he started drinking? Because realistically, when we were kids, we weren't drinking before auditing, and he was doing auditing since he was a kid. Maybe that's why he started drinking, because then he wouldn't have to go into auditing. He could just write up his OWs.
Well, and you know, the bad coping mechanisms. I mean, look at Lisa Marie Presley, another one that was drinking, another one that was going into second generation Scientologist that, you know, had to develop horrific things for herself. That why all these kids? But I mean, it actually, how could it not have been that everyone would develop those horrific trauma responses to all the dysfunction they were being literally made to take? There was no no's inside those hotels. These people were know-it-alls. I did my 2-week course. I couldn't be more certain of what in the hell I'm doing, even though it was all dehumanizing at its face. Literally, All you had to do was follow the recipe to the letter. And that's how these people did follow those recipes to the letter. The more extreme they weren't, the more proud of themselves they were. Ruthlessness, great. You're a ruthless person. Oh my God, you're so great. This is exactly what we want. Really, really ruthless people, because those are the strong ones, the ones that just go and annihilate others. So we're literally calling out that stupid, disgusting, narcissistic AF, useless, pathetic culture that is in no one's best interest. Even the narcissists are getting not served in their best interest because they're being exposed to a whole onslaught of criminal exposure. Never mind that this government is going to take them years to figure it out. But you know what? At least we're making it simple for all of them so that they don't have the ability to play dumb for another 10 more decades while we figure it out. Like, really, let's check the book. Let's read it next lifetime. Well, you know what? Start reading it today. New York Times. Shout out to y'all at the New York Times. Start reading those books that you've given a New York Times bestseller to today.
Isn't that a vote, or is it actually? Do they? Someone has to read them, don't they, or no? Like from the New York Times bestseller. Do we know this?
I know that it's a bestseller, so there's someone controlling the numbers of where they sell or whatever. Have no idea. But the gold seal of approval, endorsement, or whatever in the hell it means to have the New York Times on a book you sell. You know, apparently it's a great thing for you to have, according to Amazon, that if you get a New York Times bestseller on your book, then all of a sudden everyone's going to buy it. Well, you know what? That's what our parents were up against back in the 70s, where no one had a shred of access to Google anything. When coming up with these pathetic lies that L. Ron Hubbard came up with were, you know, very easy for people to just swallow, take them at its face. Okay, well, you say that it is like that. Okay, let's really, really believe you because, you know, aren't you the human, you know, researcher? You've done your research, so we don't have to do it for us. These are lazy AF people, you guys. Lazy AF. Oh, L. Ron Hubbard, do it all for me. Figure it out all for me. I don't want to have to do a shred of research. I'll spend 10 hours reading your research and taking it all as a fact.
Yeah.
Well, how stupid can you possibly be, literally? Like, you know, checking your critical thinking skills at the door was a requirement of these hotels. You know, and again, it's like, why would a shred of a parent want to expose their kids to a building, including but not limited to a hotel, where every adult is going to be void of critical thinking skills? And to add insult to injury, not only are they void of critical thinking skills, but they're also going around deluded, infantilized thinking that, yeah, kids are just adults in small bodies. That's a really good datum, stable datum that we really should all be running with in these hotels, because that doesn't make us suspicious AF at all. You know, it's like, shout out to all the QAnon idiots that took on that stupid narrative that, oh, there's all these crazy conspiracies. There is no MF conspiracy. It happens at the Fort Harrison Hotel, at the Celebrity Center. This shit is real AF. Stop playing dumb and stop reading stupid conspiracy theories that don't mean anything. Literally.
Yeah.
You know, if the politicians wanted to do a joke on y'all, they did it, and it's called Scientology. Literally, CC all politicians that don't have a shred of a clue what in the hell we're talking about in these YouTubes. That couldn't be less clueless, because you know what? America really wants to, you know, take a stab at the scourge of child trafficking by tapping Marisol Nichols and Ashton Kutcher, that are literally very much in the orbit of these hotels.
Yeah.
You know,
They
where
saw it on a daily.
where Ashton Kutcher's technology is nowhere to find a single shred of child trafficking taking place literally 2 blocks away from where Danny's house was committing all those felonies. Because literally few blocks away, it all happened in a radius this small, you guys. Literally, Danny's house was here, Celebrity Center was here. So it's an epidemic of disgusting proportions. Everyone has been scammed. Everyone is running around like a chicken with their head cut off, playing dumb, playing stupid, doing the unthinkable to their own kids. Carol Masterson, playing crybaby and my son, this and that, as if she didn't know anything. Somebody asked us in our last live, like, why was the family all there? Because they were fronting. If they weren't all there supporting, then it would look, and Scientology
Like
only cares
didn't
about
support 'em.
optics. It's all just optics. No. Make it look like you really are innocent. Send them all. They all know what happened. This is not a case where they can all go, well, I had not a shred of a clue. They all were briefed. They all were told. This was literally broad publication issue inside those hotels, you guys. I knew from the girl that this happened to herself. The one that was my student, Liz.
Yeah.
And then I knew again independently from another kid that went to Delphi whose literal uncle was working at the OSA department of the Oregon org, where the files stated why Danny wasn't going up the bridge anymore because he was a legal threat. So they were keeping him sort of off the bay, and he told him, stop playing poker with him. Don't hang out so much because maybe he's not as cool as he's supposed to be. So that was even independently told to me by this kid that his uncle that worked at OSA had told him. So when we say this information goes everywhere, it couldn't be more broadly distributed between all the people that get to see the eyes of this and the eyes of that. I mean, it's literally a gossip machine from hell. Everybody finds out everything about every member in there. And then they're all just like shuffling papers and telling each other this and that and blah, 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 and having all manner of opinions that are including but not limited to law-related, doctor-related, things that they have no shred of reason to be opining about. But yet, L. Ron Hubbard told them that they really could have a great opinion about something that they really could learn on a 2-week course, where the only thing they learned to be is parrots. Literally, guys, like all of these drills were all scripted parrots. We were literal actors. Then you wonder why there's so many great actors in Scientology. Well, that's what this whole thing was. Become an actor, become dejected of reality, infantilize yourself, pretend that you're this, pretend you're that, use your imagination. It's literally unthinkable.
Yeah. But let's put a nice little sticker on it and we'll call it a religion. And then we'll just see. The best news I have for that is I remember, were you in when, I'm trying to think of what year that was. But there was something went around, some news report or some magazine wrote an article about this group that was in a cult that had drank the Kool-Aid. And I remember we were told, oh my God, now that's a cult. See, we're not a cult. And then I think it was one of my roommates was basically like, see, all that stuff about us being a cult is just disgusting. But that's from the inside. And then on the outside, when I read the true article about the people that had killed themselves, match up the word cult and what goes on inside, and it's the exact same thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's just cult for culture, you guys. I mean, because the word cult gets very sort of like, oh, it's a this, it's a that, it's this old nebulous. It's a culture. It's a culture that gets created. It's a fake AF culture. of people that are running around completely with a complete narcissistic derangement syndrome, the likes of which no one else understands because they don't have access to $275 million like Ashton and Mila. And then surrounding yourself with yes men all around you, telling you you're so great, you're so wonderful, nothing you ever do is wrong, you have the power to do whatever, believe in yourself. How much are you paying all those people that are running around doing all those yeses for you, including but not limited to great lawyers, great PR people, that even if you suck, they'll figure out how to clean it up for you, clean it up for you, clean it up for you. That is how these multi-millionaires work, you guys. They use the press uses them. Let me really give you this exclusive. Let me really tell you about me because aren't I so important? Well, first of all, you're not important whatsoever. You are delusional, running around, building a brand for yourself, using that relevance to sell products. It's what all of these people are doing all the time. And it couldn't be more pathetic because you know what? As much as they're selling, they're just keep taking and taking and taking. They're not providing anything other than delusions of grandeur and living a life of like, yeah, you know, Mila Kunis, we really care about victims in the future and all throughout. And it's like, how can you tell us that today? We used to think maybe you did. We used to not know. We didn't have receipts of you acting out the way you did in that little 1 minute where you told us more that you've been keeping and hiding for yourself, Mila. So sorry, but not literally sorry.
You know, I saw a TikTok on Mila today, and it was I'd never really watched those TikToks and that showed, you know, who is this person dated. But for the first time, it was on Mila, and so the first one pops up that she dated Ashton first. Then another one pops up saying that she has actually dated Danny. And then she started dating, after those two, she started dating Macaulay Culkin. Okay. So there's those three people. And then while she was with Macaulay Culkin, she became a druggie.
Well, and
Why
she
is
said
there?
that she had a horrible, horrible, horrible breakup with Macaulay. And she even called herself out on that Dax Shepard podcast, talking about how she had been horrible, horrible, horrible to Macaulay Culkin. And, you know, it's that mean girls Scientology streak, disgusting thing that we would really know how it looked and sounded, Liz, because a lot of these women were women. Like a lot of these executives that were so depraved and unhinged, as much as everyone's focused on David Miscavige being crazy and disgusting, his women were worse than him a lot of times because they got off to doing it with kids. David didn't have a lot of kids around him. Never mind that he did. So we're not saying that there was not a shred of kid, but proportional, Debbie Cook had hundreds of kids that she would abuse on a literal daily basis. There was a child she could have abused, or she was told that a child got abused by someone else, and then she became fully complicit and she knew every last shred of detail about what happened to that kid. And that's why none of this really makes any sense, you guys. Like, they were tokenizing kids, they were making a fuck ton of money selling these BS courses, selling these BS felony laundering whatevers that are just not legit whatsoever. And it's like, if you cannot reconcile with that fact, then we cannot help you. That's a fact. L. Ron Hubbard was and is a convicted, indicted felon that everyone's pretending that he wasn't. So that's not helping any of y'all make better decisions. And it really just boils down to that.
So here's my question, because again, so much stuff has come out There's another TikTok person that is saying that Ashton was in the room and participating in some of these with some of these women. And I'm blown away because if you supposedly never knew, but yet you're at the house when this almost happens, you're his best friend. Like, I think Ashton and Danny are the exact same.
Well, and the thing is, again, it's like, I'm not saying they're the exact same because I don't have evidence and I haven't heard of a specific woman that said that he did that to them.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say that we can, you know, put him exactly in the same category, but the complicity side, it's what is suspicious AF. And it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be about that thing that he specifically got convicted of, right? Because just the fact that apparently Danny was the person that he went to for advice on what to do when he did show up to that house, when that girl was literally on the floor with literally
Dead.
blood everywhere. It's like the fact that they were in on that. It's like, you know, and Ashton has been able to recuperate his PR every single time. It doesn't matter what he does. He always comes up on top. He always comes, you know, just making none of it. I mean, and that's kind of what they did with this video, right? Because if you look at a lot of their apologies when they've come under fire for other stuff, they always kind of play it down and they make fun of it and they're like, oh yeah, ha ha ha, we don't care.
Yeah. And I will apologize. It is allegedly, there's just a lot coming out, and you're right. You know, more complicity than anything else.
Yeah, I mean they're just, you know, two peas in a pod because, you know, they were in that pod. I mean, the two pods could rot differently, but, you know, and only Ashton knows what he's been a witness of and a part of. But yeah, I mean, in the height of their stuff, they were really, really close buddies that were doing all manner of stuff, and they were being told that we're great and amazing 24/7, and don't we want to all work with you, and aren't you the this and that, and here's more money, and here's more money, and here's more money, and here's more privilege, and here's more privilege, and no one's going to tell them no one's going to tell them stop. Like even the Scientology handlers couldn't keep Danny under control. But it's like that's a testament to his childhood of how horrific he was brought up, you know, and
Yeah.
like no one takes that into account as if he had some normal childhood. Like again, you know, his stepfather went on the record on this Newsmax with Cuomo talking about how what an amazing childhood Danny had. And we really have to question, did he really have that great of an amazing childhood? Because, you know, Alana and the brothers could not stop saying how he was, you know, a replacement of a father figure for a while. Well, he was of no age to be doing anything like that, but he was relied on to make money for Carol to go get those auditions. And it's like, you know, I've seen the whole thing that, you know, Drew Barrymore has talked about how hard it was for her to grow up as a child actor, you know, and then Giovanni Ravisi, all his interviews, he goes on and on and on about how he wanted to be a child actor and he chose this for himself as a 9-year-old. And ha 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 ha, but Giovanni's another very troubled, deadbeat husband. And I would know, Giovanni, I would know from being friends with your ex-wife. And the reason I got kicked out of Scientology thanks to her, and we'll get into that later, but is if I wouldn't know that you are also one of these Scientology deadbeat husbands that were very abusive in your own specific crazy ass grotesque way. So no matter where you, Jason Lee, another one of these horrible abusive guys, his wife is already, Karen was already on the record talking about that. There's already a video we did, a reaction video we did when she came forward with her stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like, no matter where you look, it's like they're following the memos and the viewpoint of a convicted, indicted felon. What in the literal hell was everyone going to think was going to happen from doing that stupidly at scale, ad nauseum, without guardrails because they're so pressed to be insulted over, don't tell us how to live our lives. Well, you know what? We are about to start telling y'all how in the F to live your lives. And it's very simple. Come back to reality, ground yourself, and check out the laws of the land before you go blabbing about what L. Ron Hubbard told you to do. It's really just that simple, as easy as 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah. Look up, and I still do that. I do the obey the laws of the land. I think I will always do that. But it's something that's said on a regular basis, but not taken seriously inside.
Yeah.
Because if a celebrity needs anything, that will be covered up in the drop of a hat.
So,
you know, if a celebrity is going to, let's say a celebrity is flying to Sacramento and needs to go shopping, and this celebrity just happens to be on, I think it was Young and the Restless. For some reason, she got a full vice president tour through the Arden Mall. Like, why in God's green earth do you need to go with the VP? So, yeah.
well, and here Maureen Donnelly saying, Ashton is nothing like Danny. People can be friends and have secrets. Yes, Maureen, but, you know, I'm afraid to have to push back a little bit on that. You know, I agree that not everyone's guilty by association. That's not correct. But this association goes much, much deeper than anyone on the public outside knows, because you don't know how many parties they were in together, how much of the time they were spent together watching each other do the stuff they were doing when they were in their prime. These are the years that are in question.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why they didn't get in trouble then. That's why this is all getting called out. That's why the Jane Does took 20 years to get anywhere. Never mind that when this was going on, this was reported to Scientology in detail. And since Ashton was around a lot of those parties and around all of those situations, and was going to, in his own words, going to Danny for advice, for literal advice, that's what's being questioned here. So no one's saying that Ashton is what this other guy got already convicted for. Somebody got convicted, the other one's not convicted or accused of that. Ashton is being literally called out for what is coming out on him, just on him alone. You know, and even when Liz said, you know, when she misspoke on that, she already clarified it that, you know, we're not making an A equals A thing from them too. Each of them has their own answers and their own questionable AF things that are not making a shred of sense in this year 2023. Stuff that Ashton should have come in under fire a lot harder, but the PR people have been at their best cleaning it all up, cleaning up his image, still being pitched as this little, like, you know, little darling guy, little Hollywood darling. And, you know, we really should all love him so much. And isn't he so great? Well,
Yeah.
you know, we've got receipts where he took it upon himself to write to a judge. And we're making that point again, Maureen, because if you didn't get the memo that you were going to write something to a judge, to literally be judged by a judge, because as much as he wants to say, well, you know what, we were only intending that for the judge. Well, wouldn't you want to write a really good letter to a judge, seeing that a judge is going to judge it? Because that's what that letter was missing. Severe lack of self-awareness. And it's self-awareness that Ashton and Mila both do have. They are very sophisticated, believe it or not. They're not some bumbling idiots that have no clue how any laws work or how the courts work or how literal victims of, including but not limited to, SA since they do have a foundation that literally does that for kids, so they know exactly how in the hell those convictions are secured. They know exactly what type of evidence has to be brought up. And they knew exactly what in the hell was going on between all the ethics handlings in Scientology, since they were being implicated in those handlings. Don't think that Scientology wouldn't. Who else was there in those rooms when this withhold took place? And that's the problem Danny has. He was getting interrogated every single time he had a withhold. So as much as everyone in present, nobody knew anything. In Scientology, they know. In Scientology, they have to ask the questions. If you miss the questions, we were just saying a little bit before, talk about, have you ever wanted to have perverted sex with your spouse? Literally, these are, check the community lines. I can't show it to you here because it's on my phone, but check the community lines. Have you ever hurt your spouse sexually? Have you ever used sex as punishment? Have you ever failed to reach climax and blame a spouse for it? Like, what in the literal hell? So, I mean, I know, Maureen, that, this is not at you at all. This is just as a general point to everybody. This whole thing is like, don't cancel culture. No, we're bringing out the receipts and the context of what in the hell these people were doing, scenes that we were in that culture.
Mm-hmm. Just
So
like in the culture, from another end, the celebrity is going to be told it's not your fault. They're out ethics. They're suppressive. And the reason they're affecting you is because, they did you wrong. They killed you in a past life. They slapped you in a past life. And it's going to be victim shaming the whole way. But the criminal, they did nothing wrong. The other person is the one that's out ethics.
Well, this question from Robin Weisman. This one case with Danny is similar to Epstein Island. Who are the clients do this to kids? So, Robert, there's similarities and there's differences. So I think we have to be careful again on really describing the very specifics of this case. So I have compared the two differently. Epstein and Ghislaine were a tiny, minute operation. Scientology is 1,000x according to the real numbers, and it's probably 10,000x if you take Scientology's number of people that they have that follow
the real number.
I mean, if there really are 9 million Scientologists, then yeah, you can, 1,000x that. But the point is, Jeffrey and Ghislaine operated out of mansions, out of luxury homes and ranches where they were hosting all manner of parties and events and so-called philanthropic things, and, brokering these, this little side gig of underage girls that they were procuring for themselves. I mean, yeah, never mind that they never called themselves a religious operation, but they were in the business of collecting very real blackmail that somehow no one has heard a shred of the blackmail that was collected. Somehow the case ended getting settled very civilly, and, just Ghislaine never wanting to speak, so we have nothing on that case. The problem that Scientology has is that it did this to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of kids at scale.
Yeah.
Never mind that the kids that they did this to thought they were doing something legit. The girls that were doing the massages with Jeffrey soon enough realized that there was nothing legit about what in the hell they were doing, and their parents at the time took him to the police station. And the Palm Beach police did do their job, despite this Jeffrey man being a multi-millionaire, billionaire that no one really should touch and nothing else. Never mind that Alex Acosta, from the corrupt, disgusting, sunshine, nothing state of Florida, that we couldn't want to literally vomit more over, since we were literally trafficked into that state. So yeah, personally, you must hate California, but I hate Florida. just from personally being trafficked into that disgusting operation. But
Believing it was true.
Alex
My whole life.
Acosta, that disgusting corrupt attorney there that gave him a sweetheart deal. And I mean, the law has really failed so many times, you guys, that you're like, when do y'all not fail? Because every single thing that we look at is like failure, like in blatant, like not even like, oh, it's so hard to, really corrupt the law. It's like blatantly sweetheart deals of like talking about how, first of all, they call the women, the girls that were abused, the P word, because that's the only solicitation of peace is what he got charged for. I mean, imagine that. It makes not a shred of sense. And, he was prancing around until, the media then really decided to out him and talk about him. And, the Miami Herald did do a piece, that did cut his legs. But, at least they had some police police interrogations of these girls that were done, that were on the record closer to the time that it happened, because they didn't have a crisis management machine like the ones over here, where they were kneecapping every last woman to go and talk to anybody. So, Scientology is disgusting. Like, and they do everything 10x, to really go with that little term that they love. Oh, 10x, the statistics up. Well, everything is up and vertical in there. The disgustingness, it's going straight up. Like, if you thought it was this much, it's this much. If you thought there was that one victim, it's this many victims. If you thought that it was this little bit of derangement, it's this all over the hotel, everywhere. You can find it in every nook and corner. They're not hiding it. In the hotels, they run unhinged. In the hotels, everything looks so normal. Nothing raises a shred of a red flag for anyone. Literally.
Yeah. Because their eyes must be closed when they're walking into those doors, because I knew too many 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds. No.
So,
It makes me sad, because realistically, where would we have been if we didn't wake up? Because at some point in time, we believed wholeheartedly, because I know I did. And I'm so grateful for being woken up. But how much damage does one religion have to do before it's not a religion?
Well, we cannot even use that fake word anymore, because it's almost like that's where we all short circuit, right? We can call it's racketeering isn't religion. Those two words cannot be interchangeable, right? It's like the fraud that was purchased, everything was coercion, everything was manipulation, everything was screw the end user, let's help ourselves, because L. Ron Hubbard told us to. And, the more I look at religion, it's like the more we even agree to even call them that, it's such a false definition. And that's where, people can believe whatever in the hell they want. We're not anti-religion. We're not telling anyone what in the hell to believe for themselves. They can figure it out. Everyone that's an adult can figure out what they want to believe. Just don't get caught in a criminal conspiracy where you're being lured to do the unthinkable. And the unthinkable is all the stuff that we are discussing here. And the unthinkable is these power dynamics of these multimillionaires that are running around unhinged, surrounded by yes men that are not being helped even by that equation. As much as everyone says, oh, I wish I was a celebrity, I wish I really had this much power. Well, if you are having that much power and you're surrounded by yes men who don't give an F about you because they just don't have the balls to tell you to stop, well, good luck.
Yeah.
People need guardrails. People need checks and balances. What
Yeah.
in the hell is going on in those hotels is zero checks or balances, zero due diligence over what in the hell is really going on ad nauseum. Everyone purporting that it's all just so normal and so literally who in the hell cares, and we're so free in America to do whatever in the hell we want to kids.
Yeah. But they'll say, but on the guys, obey the laws of the land. We're the most ethical people out there. But behind the doors, they're screaming at kids. Kids are holding bleach, ammonia. They're a mustard gas away from dying. People are abused every day. And you have children being touched by adults.
And the Catholic Church got exposed, and I was glad, but this sounds even worse. And going back to the point, Robert, is these guys are in a league of their own. Let's just call them that. Like, there is no scale. As much as justice is supposed to be a scale, you know what? There's no scale for trauma, really. That's just like a platitude that people use to simplify something to make people feel better about themselves. But the fact is that there is no scale, and that, the Catholic Church, as unhinged as it has been throughout its centuries, I mean, they were, remember, pulling people's nails out of their hands, guys, like Inquisition style, because, oh, you didn't believe about God and how dare you. So everyone has been utilizing these horrible power structures, never mind that they've had to evolve for themselves. And never mind that we don't have receipts that every last shred of religious person is doing this to a child today. There's a ton of them that have, but we don't have the receipt that says every one of them did it. In Scientology, the problem with them, the very, very real problem, is that they all did do it. And what did they all do? Follow L. Ron Hubbard to the letter. Literally.
Yeah.
And, it looks very different following L. Ron Hubbard to the letter than the Bible. And I haven't read the Bible all the way through, but every chapter that I pick up, I'm like, you couldn't do what we were doing inside those hotels if you literally read once upon a time, a river and a tree and the sky and the moon and all this like weird, convoluted theology. Our shit was not theology. Our shit was technology. Technology is not theology.
Correct.
And this technology said, step number 1, lock up the person in the room. Step number 2, take off his clothes, loosen his clothes and his things. Step number 3, have him squeeze cans. Step number 4, ask him if he's tired or hungry. And is there any reason not to have a session? Then yell at him and say, this is the session. Literally, I mean, didn't you find that so weird, Liz, that every time it was like, are you tired? No. Are you hungry? No. Is there any reason not to have a session? No. Okay, great. This is the session. And it's like,
yeah. Or
I'm
end
here. I'm
session.
literally like, I didn't run away. It was like that scream to like impose themselves on you. And it was so ridiculous, And again, it's like that happened like robots. Nobody was allowed to say, this is the session quietly. Oh, you didn't yell it like L. Ron Hubbard said to do, Tom 40. What in the hell is wrong with you? Start yelling at the beginning of each session. Go drill that. And then you have to like do it. And it's like they literally molding robots. And again, it's like, why in the hell would you be teaching this to kids? When anyone can tell us in the comments how this is making a ton of sense now that you're really getting all of this background, we would love to know how it's making sense, because the more we speak about it, the less sense it makes.
Yeah.
And the more we speak about, what we witnessed in those hotels and how the celebrity culture was all so intertwined, everybody knowing everything about each other, having not a shred of privacy between each other. When we talk about like the KGB, the Germans, like how they were controlling communism, this was America's spiritual communism, started by a communist, disgusting, deranged science fiction writer who couldn't have been more deranged, who couldn't have been more pathetic, who couldn't have been wanting to normalize child trafficking of minors and abuse at scale if he hadn't been calling the kids adults in small bodies.
Yep.
I mean, if that's not like literally pedophilia number one, adult in small body, said every last adult abuser.
Yeah. So that they can touch a child and not be stricken from it because they're not really a child. They're an adult, but they're stuck in a little body. But they're not a child. That's grilled into you from the time you're born. You're not a child. You're just in a tiny body.
It's
Yeah.
just such a disgusting insult to anyone's intelligence, you guys. Like, there is no way to defend that literally stable datum that they all have. It's like, and they pitch that as if like, we're doing y'all a favor. We're calling you a Thetan. We're not minimizing you to think that you're not a child. Aren't we doing you a favor? And trust me, when you're 11, 12, 13, and you're being told that, yeah, don't you want to go be a great executive in that organization? Like, don't you want to have power? And yeah, I mean, all these little narcissistic teenagers wanted to have power. Literally. And it's like, because that was the drill in there. Go yell at people, go scream at them, go get people to call you sir. I mean, literally.
Yeah. And call women sir, men sir, but definitely always sir. Or mister.
Yeah, it's just the systemic erosion of boundaries with kids and adults over and over ad nauseum. Nobody sees a shred of a thing wrong. And again, it's like, if you thought that was a great environment for you to be going spiritually free, think about that again today. Because you cannot go free in an environment that is enslaving kids. Sorry to break y'all's bubble. And if you want to say that we're SPs for telling you like it is, trust me, the SPs are telling you the other version of that bullshit you really are pressed to believe against your own best interest. This is not in your own best interest to go around deluding yourself to believe any of this. You're putting your kids at risk. Go write a letter to Carol Masterson and see if anything that happened to her kids. I mean, every mother would be really asking themselves that question right about now. Did I F up as a mother here? Like, my kid ended up in jail. I was his manager. It's not like I was just like normal upbringing, school, independence. I get that, parents can be helicoptering, but the Scientology parents, guys, take helicoptering to a level that is so nauseatingly unthinkable. It's just a point of no return, and it literally sickens us to have to be making these points, to have to be the bearers of bad news for everybody.
Yeah. Sorry to burst that, beautiful bubble, but sometimes things need to be burst so you can understand what's going on.
As adults, we're adults in adult bodies today. We're talking to y'all as the adults that y'all are. Carol, including you. Carol, how much pressure is being put on Carol right now, Liz, over this PR flap from hell? I mean, Scientology right now,
she's in lower conditions.
Shitting bricks on hell, you guys. They've never had a flap of this magnitude, right? And the press that's been on the sidelines for so long, capitulating to them over and over, are now starting to, run a little bit more, turn up a little bit more the heat. And again, that's the problem with the press, right? If the press is supposed to be turning up the heat so the corruption doesn't just proliferate ad nauseum, That's why it's almost too little too late. Like, are we so happy that things, yeah, I mean, it's good that people are talking about it. It's good that the narrative is catching up to where it needed to be. 25 years ago would have been a good time for all of this mess to stop.
Yeah.
Literally. How many lives could we have saved? How many kids being abused could we have saved? So that's why it matters. And that's why it cannot take another whatever many decades this government needs to figure out its corrupt incentives over all its laws and legal system, who couldn't be more pathetic by what we've seen so far, by the actual results of what we can see. Where are the lawsuits? Where are the convictions? It's like, we know we lived a felony. We don't need the court to tell us, oh, that was really a felony when they locked you up with your passport and you couldn't escape the hotel and you were 14. Oh, never mind, that was a felony. Even though your parents said it was all okay for you to be locked up against your will. Our parents didn't have the right to override the American rights that this Constitution purports to give every one of its citizens. It's really that simple. So as much as our parents signed the parental consent to emancipate themselves of us legally, and then reap financial rewards, including but not limited to financial rewards of not paying for a shred of thing for their child.
Yep.
That's how we get full circle. That is literally how we got full circle. So do we have any questions to answer? I think we're going to wrap up soon.
I don't know. There's a funny one where there's two people chit-chatting.
Oh. Well,
it's like Days of Our Lives in the little chit-chat. I love it.
A lot, right? I'm a survivor of SA by adopted father, no Scientology connection, but I can relate to these stories of abuse. Well, thank you, Forgotten Whispered. Yes, we all can relate, and we're all here advocating on our behalves, and so many of us have not seen a shred of justice done, and we deserve to see the justice happen, because seeing that it happens sends a message for it to not continue. And that's the only alchemy out of this disgusting torture and pain we were forced to endure. So I think it's very important that we, highlight all of you guys that are here with, that's why we're supporting each other. That's why there's 118 people here that can take it upon themselves to go to the FDLE Instagram account and advocate on behalf of these kids. Honestly, you guys. And also, like, on YouTube, I would love to start seeing like Scientology questions being asked of all these people that we keep calling out, because they need to feel the pressure if they're going to do anything. As much as we can talk here ad nauseum until we're like blue in the face, if they don't start seeing some questions to actually start really sharpening their very dull critical thinking skills that they all seem to have, I think I put it on the description of this video. Ask your questions to Tampa Bay Time. Ask your questions to Clearwater Police. Ask your questions to LAPD. Ask your questions to LA Times. Those are the first line of enablers these hotels have. Those are the buddies that have been literally okay with everything that's going on in those hotels for 73 years combined. So they've been completely inept, completely unable to do a shred of a thing to help a child there. So we are now sick of it. So that's when you guys can really come in and help us. And with 100 people asking questions on a daily basis all over those Instagram accounts, because they do post a lot of awards and here we just found another guy that was missing, another child in Florida, because we really do care about missing children, unless they go missing inside luxury hotels frequented by celebrities of Hollywood, including but not limited to. Then we don't give a shred of an F. Then it's not a trafficking victim. Then we're calling that a religious volunteer that really volunteers with a passport locked up, but that doesn't matter because I guess we're all just alleging things that cannot be literally found by knocking on the door and literally, hi, where are you from? Oh, you're in reception. How old are you? Oh, you're the ethics officer. Oh, and you said you're 13 years old.
Yep.
I mean, you guys, the 13-year-old ethics officer called me today. You know, and I couldn't have been more happy to hear from someone that literally corroborates everything we've been saying for the last 10 years. Actually, 8 years. I haven't left. Well, I mean, I was definitely out of Scientology 10 years ago, but I wasn't speaking. But
Yeah.
definitely out. But it's taken a decade for us to have to feel like we have to do this, but we are doing this, and we're doing this every day. So if 114 of you can also like and subscribe to our videos and subscribe to Liz's channel, Pokemon and Cults.
Yep.
You know, we're gonna be really discussing more of these things that are coming up, and our whole hope is to, you know, educate all of you that are showing up here with us every day, because the more you understand the subject, the better your questions can be.
And the more you understand the subject, the more that you will stay away. You will warn someone else to stay away. You won't do a personality test. You won't even get drawn in because, yes, you may think, oh, on the outside, they're a cult. I want to experience this. But just remember, just takes a little manipulation.
And Robert, you found that nobody wants to hear this stuff, and they for sure don't want to talk about it. You feel like you're in a prison, but don't be discouraged, because look, 120 people, 123 people are listening right now as we speak. We never thought that even one person wanted to hear what in the hell we had to say.
Yeah.
So sometimes, you know, it takes a while to get people hearing you, but everyone in this community is extremely in touch with what in the hell we're all showing up here to do. And the more you do learn, we're coming up with more proactive steps for y'all to be able to feel like you don't have to not have a voice. We all have a voice. And that's why it's important for you to show up on Instagram and literally start asking questions, because no one is stopping anybody from asking questions. And questions are what needs to be asked right now, since nothing makes a shred of sense, you know. So instead of being defeated, we have to just ask the questions that don't make sense, because, you know, we need to help this police whose critical thinking skills could not be more compromised. But you know what?
Yep.
Those critical thinking skills will get sharpened whether they like it or not. They won't
Make
be
a
able
big
to,
enough stink. Yes.
they won't be able to play dumb for the rest of their lives. It's really just that simple. It really is. Serge and Liz are exactly over the target. We must write, call questions, demand, and then do it all over again and again. And everyone has the time to do, considering the benefit. Yeah. And the great thing about on Instagram, you guys, is you don't have to leave your house. You don't have to drive anywhere. You don't have to go buy materials to make a sign. Right now, let's just start with step number 1. Ask your questions of the Clearwater Police, of the Tampa Bay Times, of the LA Times, of the literal LAPD,
Mm-hmm.
especially the Human Trafficking Division of the LAPD. Okay? And pose your questions to them. Everything you're finding out about here, I mean, a lot of you say, like, this is absolutely outrageous. They cannot be locking up kids inside those rooms. Tell them there is a memo from L. Ron Hubbard called the Auditor's Code that states that no PC, aka the person being locked into that room, aka including but not limited to children, can end sessions on their own determinism. That means that a child cannot say no once they're abducted inside that room. There is no turning back. And the parent sits outside loving that they're getting questioned, loving that they're getting all their boundaries eroded, not giving a shred of an F The parents that do love these sessions for themselves. Carol Masterson could not probably rave to you about how much she loves going in session and getting her needle floated. I'm sure those sessions are coming in handy right about now, Carol. Maybe you can go float your needle after your kid ended up in jail. And you don't still have a clue on how that happened. And, you know, again, that's what is all getting called out about, you guys. So please do not get discouraged. Please just start asking the questions. Start putting them on our comments. Start putting them on the LAPD, on the FBI. The FBI has a YouTube channel. Ask them the questions there too. You know?
Yeah, I think the LAPD has a YouTube channel as well, if I'm remembering right. They have one.
LAPD
I
has,
know they
yeah, we tag
definitely
them
have an
all the
Instagram.
time. Every time we're tagging them and tagging them because you guys, they cannot play dumb for the rest of their lives. You know, apparently when ABC News writes it and says it, they don't give it a shred of an F. There is no top tier media that hasn't already touched the Scientology stories, including 60 Minutes Australia. But again, the cops of this nation have done nothing with anything that comes out of any news. Nothing. They just sit there and still wonder what in the hell they could possibly do to stop what in the hell they're hearing. Police are assholes, Mary. Well, you know, they're not doing their job. You know, that's what we're calling them. We're calling them out for not doing their literal job. We are calling that out. You know, it's like whether they are that or not, we're not even here to mention whether they are or not. Like, we need kids out of those hotels. We need them to start applying laws. That's all we care about. Like, we don't care how their personality is. As long as they follow the black and white letters that state, don't coerce kids, don't defraud them. As long as they're willing to literally make sure no one is doing that, we would be just so happy with that. Literally, that's it. So, police commissioner of the LAPD, do y'all's job. Commissioner of the Clearwater PD, do y'all's job. Commissioner of the Riverside PD, where Bob Ferris is still being kept as we speak, without coming out of his hole to see if he's still really alive, because we still yet to see him anywhere. And his daughter, his very real daughter that's literally sitting in this podcast, has not had a shred of information whatsoever. All you do is give her the runaround. That's what the hell is called. Oh, we're going to go check. Oh, we really did see him. Oh, we really did get told this, and he really wants you to know. And why in the hell can he come out and speak for his damn self?
Yeah.
I mean, that he did put it on himself to put out a rumor that he was dead 20 years ago. I mean, how more ridiculous, incompetent can y'all be at that police station? So write questions to the Riverside PD, because they also have an Instagram account, guys. So please go and write to them. Where in the hell is Bob Ferris? Why can he speak for himself?
Yeah, it's sheriff. It's the sheriff.
The Riverside Sheriff.
Now, I do have, just to update you on that one, I did get an email address that I've been typing out a letter, and every time I type it out, I'm like, oh, it could be better, and I start over. I do have an email address that I'm going to be using to try to get that, at least a contact information.
Yeah, and in the meantime, it doesn't hurt to ask the questions on their already available public platforms. You know, back in the day, like, you know, people really took phone calls. Nowadays, they just give you those machines that run you around a full circle. So we don't want you guys wasting your time either. So we don't want to come up with asks. You know, it took us a really long time to figure out what kind of ask we could do that wouldn't really like take all of your time already. Like, you're already taking all this time to be with us here on these lives, and we don't want to keep taking time from you So we thought, what is the most easiest way to ask questions without having to literally have you leave your house, you know? So it's like, just leave your questions, you know, that's all we need. Why is this happening? Why are no laws getting enforced? Why are our child trafficking laws so toothless in this country, while everybody runs around pretending that America really wants to stop international child trafficking? Because it really does happen everywhere else. So anything like that is helpful. This girl, Finding Dory, sending certified letters. I mean, yeah, I mean, if y'all want to take it upon yourselves to write certified letters and send them, we're never going to tell you no. But again, it's like we're trying to go with the lowest hanging fruit we can do. You know, let's go for the next 3 months. Just ask questions. Let's see if in 3 months we haven't gotten a response, you guys. Let's just make it, you know, a little testy test for ourselves.
Yeah.
So as of today, what is it today? September 13th?
13th. Yeah, 13th.
So in December 13th, you guys, we're going to remember this day because I just wrote it down on this post-it, okay? So on December 13th, we're going to see how many of y'all can really ask questions from everything you learn in our lives. And that's what I would love for you to do. As you listen to our lives, ask questions. And, you know, and start putting questions also in the comments, you know, like as comments as we're talking about stuff. I would love to start seeing questions, because the more we're having this as a two-way conversation, you know, it's like if something we say is not making sense, it's like, what in the hell do you mean that they locked you up against your will and you couldn't get out? Can you clarify that? Yes, I can clarify that exact thing. I can show you the policy. I can show you how it was implemented. I can show you who told us to be stuck in the hotel. I could tell you who exactly told us not to leave the room. So it's that type of level of weeds that we need to get into. So I need y'all to sharpen y'all's own critical thinking skills to really understand what type of questions you need to ask. You know, because that's the only way we're going to get awareness activated in the collective as a whole. The United States has the laws. They already figured that out. The United States has the capacity to stop this. Believe you me, the FBI has more power than anyone can possibly do anything. You know, they can literally go in, knock on the door, grab what they need to grab, and do their job. These people make it very easy for them. They have everything on files. They have everything on record. They have everything on video. They have everything there. They have all the passports locked up in a vault. So it's not really that hard a job. You know, it's honestly like quite, you know, astonishing that the job is still not getting done. But, you know, there's a lot of people that are going to lose a lot of face, I guess, if, you know, they really have to face their reality in the state of Florida and California, that they are sanctioning child trafficking of minors at scale, and that they have played dumb and dumber. Those two methods are the only methods that have been applied by all of these people that haven't done a shred of a thing to actually do anything.
I did see one question. Hold on. Candy's Life, and it says, question, does Scientology still own the Manor Hotel in Hollywood? Yes, they do. The Celebrity Center is on one side, and then they're considered like Celebrity Center has the lower floors, and then the Manor Hotel is up. So lower floors are classrooms, things like that, but the hotel goes from there up. I think someone's asking if you have super chats.
Yeah. Oh, Marlene, thank you for the super chat for Marlene. I think I just saw it.
Oh, okay. Okay, I think that's all the questions I saw. But let's be real, I don't have good vision, so. Oh, wait a minute. One more. Kat, can I clarify my?
The way you said my name was really rude, Serge. You are rude. Oh, okay. I'm sorry, Mary. I don't know where that came up from, but I'm sorry if I was condescending or rude.
Yeah. So I didn't hear you being that way. Did you say someone's name?
No, I guess we were reading about the cops. Oh, that's what it was. We were reading about the cops. No, it wasn't about you.
Oh,
It was
okay.
just about, we've gotten all this pushback about the cops. Like, whenever we've said any of our disagreements about the cops and calling them the names, they're like, yeah, but they're the ones doing the thing and that. So we were just clarifying that for the commenters that have been actually like, correcting us when we have brought up the cops that are not doing their jobs. Like, oh, don't go after them. They don't, it's not their fault. They can't really start the cases yet. And so that's what was getting called out. That's all.
Yeah. I did see a question from Kat. Can you clarify your job at CC? So when I first finished and the training force that we have, I went to the Manor Hotel. I was found out, hey, just kidding, you're not really going to Gold. You're going to be doing housekeeping. So I was like, okay, that doesn't make any sense, but I had to talk to my dad about it because I wasn't understanding. Did that for a little bit until I got dragged into HCO and screamed at for a couple hours. And then I was a floater in CC Network. And then I became the EPFIC. And then I went on decks a whole bunch, went back to the EPFIC, decks again for a whole bunch, went back and became a floater. So that way they could send me to whoever needed me. And then right after that became on decks again. But hopefully that explains everything. So
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time on decks. You would have thought that my permanent post was decks. You see any other questions? Oh, Roar has a question.
I had a question. I don't see the question.
I don't see the question either. Oh, here's one from Witness. Question. I had read that each Scientologist has 3 folders kept on them: ethics, personal, and pre-clear. Is that only Seorg? Realistically, I've never heard of someone carrying their own folder ever in my life. Someone else will carry their folder. But you can have more than 3 folders. Like when I was a kid, I had like 5 or 6. And then as an adult, I had a lot. Since I had so many sec checks and everything else, it went from my little stack to like a stack.
Oh my God.
So,
I had over like 80 or 90 folders, like this thick, you guys, because I was also put in the RPF in the Scientology hole. And it was just like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages of all the copious notes that were being taken when we were there. So yeah, it was tons of folders, tons of things.
yeah. So yeah, there's never going to be just 3. It's going to be a lot. Especially if you've had any auditing or anything like that.
Question. I read that each Scientologist has 3 folders kept on them. Oh, that's the one that you read. Is that the one that you read? Okay.
Yep. From
And
Witness. Can I get a witness?
I'm in therapy right now and I'm doing exposure therapy. I have very few memories of my before the age of 30. Memories are coming back. How do you guys cope with those memories coming back? Oh, that's a good question.
I have a therapist and I have people that I vent to on a regular basis, because for me, as memories are coming back, and finding out, basically finding out that a lot of my life was a lie, it's caused a little bit of a breakdown for me. So I do a lot of journaling and I do a lot of therapy. I need to get back into kickboxing or something because that helps too.
Yeah, that's good. Well, and we just take it every day, one day at a time. I mean, there's days that you think that all your stuff is so good and you're doing great, and then it takes something to trigger you. So we really wish you the best on your exposure therapy, because if that's working for you, I mean, as trauma survivors, I think we all have to like strive to find different ways to cope, because it's very easy, like we're broken. So sometimes
Yeah.
it takes something to break something that we thought didn't even need to be fixed, but then we find out that there is something there. So but yeah, so the more that you do the heavy lifting on the therapy side, the better it gets too.
Yeah. I did see one. Liz, you were in Scientology, just catching up by Forgotten Whispers. Yes, I was. I was born into it. My mom and dad, both Scientologists, and then my mom left in 1990. Yep, when you can back 1900s for you youngins. Then I went back and joined the Sea Org right after that. So, well, not right after that, but a couple years later, I rejoined. So, yeah, I was fully invested in believing in it.
In like Flynn. Is there another one there?
I think
Oh,
if I forget anybody, I'm truly sorry.
things completely changed after L. Ron Hubbard died. Not good either way.
For me, it stayed the same. For me, after he died, I mean, someone else was in charge, but for me as a kid, it stayed the exact same.
True.
I
'Cause you
I
were there
still,
during him being alive, actually,
yeah.
and after he died.
So it went from having no parents at all and being forced to basically get in trouble if you try to see them, to he dies, someone else is now in charge. Now David Miscavige did have RTC sent over to the L. Ron Hubbard way and auditing or checking all of the LRH comms and all the captains, and then they were going to get put on the RPF. And then we left, and then when I came back, it was still the same. Like those that had kids, it was still the same.
Question: suggestion for someone who has nuanced knowledge of the cult in Australia, so I can be more strategic in my efforts. Nuanced knowledge of the cult in Australia. What does that mean to you?
How to
Like,
avoid Scientology in Australia. That's how I'm taking it, I guess. If you could be more specific.
yeah, because I'm not sure how to answer that.
Like, can be
More
more
nuanced.
strategic in my effect. No matter which way, I would say avoid it like the plague. It's the bubonic plague. Avoid it. Tell your friends to avoid it.
Question: what happens to the folders? Can they be used to prove the abuse? Yes, that's a great question, One Love.
Yes, they can.
They can, and they have been used. In the case of Laura Di Crescenzo, the literal superior United States court cited that the folders could be used. So we definitely need to get a hold of more of those folders, and hopefully with more lawsuits going through, those can get acquired. But also law enforcement could go and get those folders for themselves in whatever
Yeah.
legal way they need to acquire that evidence, because the evidence is there, and everything that was done to us is in those folders as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
My
we all could
mom's
have very legal
confessions.
cases, very much tons of evidence, literally corroborated, in-depth notes of when the abuses took place, what was going on with us psychologically. Everything was data mined that is written in those folders exactly in a very specific, very incriminating way, which is actually what's so crazy about it when you really think about it.
Yeah. Because I would love my folder. If I had my folder, even my mom's folders, I would love to have that information. All of the shit, all of the diets. I would probably die laughing at the KRs and knowledge reports for me not being a perfect, perfectly skinny. But I would love it because then I can go forward with, look, this is see the abuse. I had to get auditing for this. Oh, look at my mom's folder. She had to confess to beating the living shit out of me. My dad had to confess that he didn't see me, but once every 2, 3, 6 months, he would have to confess, and I would have to confess that it hurt my feelings, and then be told to get my TRs in. So yes, I would love my folders. I would love them. Absolutely adore them.
Question: have you heard of the book Cults and Our Myths by Margaret Singer? It's a great book. No, I haven't heard of that one, but could be really great. Question: can I plan an SPTV luncheon in Palm Springs? We all could meet each other and tie up some Scientology money in the process. Definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I love me some Palm Springs. We know what happens there once a year. 'Cause, but yeah, Palm Springs is amazing. It sounds wonderful. But just be mindful. We all have schedules, so it's not something that could be planned instantly. But I'm sure, some of us would love a get together. Maybe we can ask. Yeah, we can answer questions. You can meet us so that way you could realize we're people too. Yeah, and bring out the facts.
Bring out the facts already. Okay, and what is it? I'm close to Palm Springs. Okie dokie. Well, I think those are all the questions, right?
Yeah. So then I will just close it by please click subscribe, smash the like. The more you help the algorithm, the more we can get this word out. The more people we reach, the more they'll kick my dad out. So please hit subscribe.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you so much, and have everyone a very good night. Bye-bye.